Fleet Commander Kethvar of the Centauri hegemony felt his confidence crystallize into certainty as his scanning arrays completed their analysis of the human vessel. The ship floating 3 kilometers away, the UES Ragnarok, was laughably primitive by galactic standards. No quantum shielding, no dimensional displacement drives, no consciousness-based targeting systems. Just crude fusion engines, basic alloy armor, and kinetic projectile weapons that belonged in a museum. Analysis complete, Commander reported his sensor technician, her crystalline voice carrying the musical undertones of Centauri's superiority. The human vessel masses approximately 847,000 tons. Primary armament appears to be chemical explosive projectiles and focused electromagnetic radiation. No exotic matter signatures detected. Their reactor output is barely sufficient for interplanetary travel. Kethvar's forearms gestured in the traditional pose of dismissal. The Centauri had been spacefaring for 12 millennia before humans had discovered fire. Their ships manipulated space-time itself as a weapon, could phase between dimensions at will, and were powered by controlled singularities. This human warship was hardly worth the exotic matter required to fire their main weapons. "Maintain scanning protocols," he ordered. "The Council wants a complete tactical assessment of human capabilities before we proceed with annexation." These primitives shouldn't take long to catalogue, but as the deep scans penetrated the human vessel's hull, Kethvar's confidence began to waver. His sensor technician's harmonious voice took on discordant notes of confusion. "Commander, I'm detecting anomalies in the ship's internal structure. The engineering sections, they don't make sense." Kethvar interfaced directly with the scanning array, his consciousness merging with the ship's quantum sensors. What he perceived made his auxiliary hearts skip synchronized beats. The human ship's engineering wasn't just primitive, it was deliberately redundant to an impossible degree. Every critical system had been tripled, sometimes quadrupled. Life support, navigation, weapons targeting, reactor control, all designed with the assumption that multiple systems would fail simultaneously, and the ship would continue fighting. More disturbing was the power distribution network. Instead of the elegant, efficient designs that characterized advanced civilizations, the humans had created a brutal maze of backup conduits and emergency routing that could maintain combat effectiveness even with 60% of the ship destroyed. "Commander," his tactical analyst interrupted, "I'm reading something impossible in their crew compartments. The internal atmospheric composition. They're breathing a corrosive gas mixture that would kill most known species within minutes. Their life support system is maintaining an environment that is actively toxic." Kethvar's scanning intensified. The humans weren't just living in a poisonous atmosphere, they had weaponized their biology. Emergency protocols were in place to flood the ship with even more toxic compounds if boarded, creating an environment where humans could fight while invaders suffocated. "Their medical bay," whispered the sensor technician, her voice now tight with something approaching fear. "It's not designed for healing. It's designed for combat triage and rapid surgical modification. They can perform cybernetic enhancement surgery during battle conditions." The revelations kept coming, each one more disturbing than the last. The human weapon systems weren't just primitive, they were horrifically practical. Kinetic projectiles designed to fragment inside enemy vessels, creating thousands of ricocheting fragments that would shred anything not protected by armor. Electromagnetic pulse weapons calibrated to disable electronics while leaving biological systems intact, ensuring maximum suffering. But it was the ship's tactical database that made Kethvar's blood freeze. The humans had wargamed scenarios against every known species in the galaxy. Not just battle tactics, but complete strategic frameworks for the systematic destruction of entire civilizations. They had calculated the exact tonnage of antimatter required to sterilize each major world, identified the critical infrastructure nodes whose destruction would collapse interstellar governments, and developed deployment strategies for biological weapons tailored to specific alien physiologies. "Commander," his communications officer interrupted. "We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel. Audio only." The voice that filled the bridge was calm, almost conversational, but carried undertones that Kethvar's analysis software identified as controlled aggression. "Centauri vessel, this is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the UES Ragnarok. We've detected your scanning attempts. While we appreciate your scientific curiosity, I should inform you that detailed scans of military vessels are considered acts of hostility under Terran Space Force regulations." Kethvar activated his own communication array. "Captain Rodriguez, this is Fleet Commander Kethvar. Your vessel is operating in hegemony space without proper authorization. We are conducting standard security protocols." Commander Rodriguez replied, "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. This isn't hegemony space anymore." Before Kethvar could process the implications of that statement, his sensors detected massive quantum fluctuations throughout the system. His tactical display suddenly showed 47 new contacts, materializing from what his instruments had registered as empty space. Human ships, all identical to the Ragnarok, all appearing simultaneously through what could only be described as weaponized dimensional folding. The humans had somehow hidden an entire fleet using technology that his advanced sensors couldn't detect. "You see," Commander Rodriguez continued, "you made an error in your analysis. You assumed our technology was primitive because it looked primitive. What you missed is that we design our weapons for one purpose: killing things that are stronger than we are." Kethvar's consciousness interfaced desperately with his ship's quantum processors, running combat scenarios against the human fleet. The results were uniformly catastrophic. The human ships were configured for close-range engagement, designed to survive in environments that would destroy more sophisticated vessels. Their redundant systems meant they could continue fighting long after his elegant starships had been reduced to expanding debris clouds. "The hegemony has classified human technology as primitive for the last century," Rodriguez said. "You've been scanning our merchant vessels, our exploration ships, our civilian transports, but you've never seen our warships in action. You've never seen what we build when we stop pretending to be civilized." Kethvar's analysis subroutines painted a picture that violated everything he understood about technological development. The humans hadn't chosen primitive technology, they had weaponized it. Their ships were built like viruses, designed to survive, replicate, and spread throughout enemy formations, while more advanced vessels tried desperately to maintain their technological advantages. "The fear you're feeling right now," Rodriguez continued, "that's just the beginning. Because you haven't seen our real weapons yet. You haven't seen what happens when a species that evolved as persistent predators decides to wage war on a galactic scale." As if summoned by her words, Kethvar's long-range sensors detected something that made his quantum consciousness recoil in horror. Massive structures, previously invisible to his scans, began powering up throughout the system. Not ships' installations. Weapons platforms that had been lying dormant, disguised as asteroids and debris, waiting for exactly this moment. The humans hadn't just hidden a fleet. They had fortified the entire star system, turning it into a killing ground designed specifically for species like the Centauri. Commander Rodriguez's voice carried a note of almost sympathetic warning. "I'd recommend you withdraw your fleet now. Because in about 30 seconds, you're going to discover why the rest of the galaxy has stopped trying to conquer humanity." Kethvar stared at his tactical displays, watching as his technologically superior fleet found itself surrounded by humans who had turned primitive engineering into an art form of systematic destruction. The fear, as the human captain had promised, was just beginning.